I know why everybody played Resident Evil Village. You know why everybody played Resident Evil Village. Heck, Markiplier knows why he played Resident Evil Village. The Thirst.
Or Lady Dimitrescu.
Yes.
Daughters. No,
he's more of the daughter. He's more a fan of the daughters.
Lady D is still hot, but I can't deny hot goth girls either.
Fair enough. But Lady Dimitrescu, her sequence in the game was really good because it was sort of like the Nemesis thing where she kept like stalking you around the castle and all that. And it was kind of cool.
I mean, like, that's one of the only things I've ever seen. Like, you know, people are always weird. They're like, like somebody's like hurting somebody, and you're like, oh, it's like step on me, mommy, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like the goth daughters show up and like stick the freaking size in Ethan's legs, and I'm just like, my brain is like, I'm into it. So I'm just like, what? Why did you say that, brain?
Yeah.
Calm down. What the fuck?
I can definitely see whenever they had their hands around your throat and they were just like, and they were just like, what was that? I couldn't quite hear you. Harder.
Yeah.
And they would just be like, Mother, we have a weird one here.
Pretty much.
And then all of a sudden you just see her stand up and turn around and just be like, and all of a sudden you're just standing there, like, have your arms chained up, and you're like, good God, I would climb that like a fucking tree. As if my fat ass could climb a tree now. I probably could if I was given enough inspiration. I'll roll for it.
Resident Evil Village is a game that, no, not for those reasons, but I have played 109 hours of.
Yes. It's one of his favorite Resident Evil games.
I know. I understand. Like, I get all the arguments. I get it. Everybody likes 4. Everybody likes 7. There's just something about 8. I really had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun rerunning through it.
Nothing wrong with that.
And I don't know. It's fun. Like, I liked upgrading the guns. Like,
yeah,
they seemed like more, I don't know, like intuitive, I guess, to upgrade than 4s in a way. Like,
yeah, to an extent, I get that.
I like the arsenal better in 8.
Yes.
Even though it's similar to 4s, I still like it better. But also the perfect horror sequence. I have a feeling I know what this is going to be.
Bienvenidos Manor.
Yeah, because it's not obviously the castle with Dimitrescu. Like, everybody loves that part of the game, but man, people don't talk about Beneviento's Manor enough.
No, Beneviento is
the first time I played that, I legitimately had chills.
Yes,
like, it was creepy as fuck.
The unsettling atmosphere, and then whenever you're in the basement, and then like the baby monster comes in, it's just like,
yeah,
what the
dude,
fuck?
there's so much nope in that sequence.
Yes.
And if anybody has a phobia of dolls, like, it's got to be all the worse for them. Like,
I can only imagine what Kate's gonna be like.
Yeah,
whenever we go back to it.
I would love to see Kate and Andrew's reaction to that part.
Oh, that'd be classic. Oh god,
Andrew's scared of dolls too, if you didn't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure it made him uncomfortable when y'all brought that baby doll in while we were playing Curse of Strahd, and he was probably just sitting there trying not to say anything.
I remember that. Oh my god,
we need to look back at the footage and watch his facial expression during that part, because I bet you anything he was like, ooh.
I can't remember which session it was, but I'll look back through the sessions and see if I can find that part, because that was fun. But
yeah, he doesn't like dolls or mannequins.
That's what I figured. But the Bienvenido Manor and like the dolls and everything, it's one of my favorite parts of that game. I would say if I had to rank it, it's probably my favorite sequence, followed by Lady Dimitrescu, then Heisenberg's, and then Salvatore Moreau's. Because Moreau's sequence, you know, water is can be scary, especially when you have like a whenever you're dealing with like a friggin' monster like Moreau, but
yeah,
at the same time, I found that sequence not as terrifying as the others.
Same. There were certain things I think they could have done differently with it that would have made it scarier.
Yes.
His voice is part of the problem.
Yeah,
because he's really kind of a character that they're trying to make like a like they're really trying to get across the tragedy of the 4 with like him.
Yes.
Because he's obviously like the most failed experiment out of the 4.
He's the most failed experiment, yet somehow, like she's like Mother Miranda still finds use out of him. Mm-hmm. Whereas Heisenberg and Dimitrescu are her greatest success. Whereas Benvenuto, she's just not. She doesn't have like the confidence as Dimitrescu or Heisenberg.
There's one good part of Moreau's part that I did like, and that's when you're on the zip line the first time, and like he jumps out, and like even Ethan's like fuck.
Yes,
like, you know,
that was really good.
But like even Ethan's not scared during that part of the game. Like he straight up like he's like, I'll be taking this, you know, like, and gets one up on him, and he's like, you're so stupid, I just blocked you in, and he's just like, oh fuck. But even Ethan by that point, he's like, I've seen so much shit. Like, I kind of feel like a badass at this point. Like,
yeah, and it's not until you get to Benvenuto that it's just like, what's going on here?
Benevento is psychological horror combined with,
you
know, everything else. So,
it's gorgeous. It's
Resident
so
Evil
good.
doesn't usually do psychological horror, but it definitely does during that part.
And they need to do more of it because. As the dev team at Capcom that works on the Resident Evil games, they know how to do horror, and if they can master like psychological horror with what they did with this sequence and make like an entire game out of it, Christ.
I don't know if everybody would agree with me, but in my opinion, one of the creepiest parts of 7 is the ship, and that's because there's some psychological horror coming into play there too. Before you realize what's going on for sure.
I would say the ship
feels psychological.
It's the scariest like part of the second half of the game. Initially, when you're like going through the house for the first time, that's the scariest part of the game for me personally. But yeah,
the basement of the house is one of the scariest parts.
That too. Well,
as well as when you actually find like Evie's room and stuff is pretty scary as well.
Yeah.
It's all dark and creepy and shit. But...
And and they play the psychological horror in that segment a lot too. Sheesh. Well, we got a video here from Postra. Yeah, another Postra video, I know. But Postra's going to be telling us about like how Resident Evil Village created the perfect horror sequence. So let's see what good old Postra's got for us today. Are you ready, Nikolai? Let's go.
What would you say is the scariest moment a piece of media has ever made?
Also, Anarchy, thank you very much for sending this one in to us. We appreciate it very much.
I like stuff like
experience. Maybe it was the first time you saw a horror movie at an age you weren't supposed to.
Also,
perhaps it was a particularly bad jump scare in a game you played. Or maybe it was from a series which wasn't even inherently meant to be horror. As someone who is very passionate about the horror genre and someone who admittedly scares very easily, I feel like at one point I would have had a very difficult time answering that question. However, recently I had the pleasure of experiencing a game which featured quite possibly the most horrifying sequence I have ever seen from any horror game. And if you've read the title of this video, then you know that game is Resident Evil Village. I had put this game off for quite a while because of how different it looked from the typical RE experience that I tend to enjoy. But after playing through RE4 Remake, I had gotten into a massive Resident Evil kick, replaying older games in the series and trying out ones I hadn't gotten around to. This was what eventually led to me trying RE8 for the first time, and all
it's like you're playing like a stealthy version of Dark Souls or something.
Well, if I didn't see like the enemies in the background and knew what game it was, and I just saw like that outfit crouched over sneaking around as a screenshot, I would be like, is this from Plague Tale?
Maybe. Yeah, might have a point there.
Have to say is that I hate myself for not playing this amazing game sooner. I loved every minute of RE8. The locations in the game were absolutely beautiful. The characters and enemies were among some of the most creative I'd seen from the series, and of course, it had a section that terrified me to my core. The specific section which I'm referring to is one that we experience a little less than halfway through the game. By the time I'd arrived in it, I wasn't expecting much in the way of horror. Sure, Castle Dimitrescu had some wonderful moments, and being pursued by Lady Dimitrescu herself was very stressful, but I would never say that I was downright terrified. These expectations ended up being my downfall once I left the castle though, because with them in mind, I could never predict the kind of raw terror I would experience the moment I opened the doors to House Beneviento.
Yes.
So, without further ado,
we knew it. We knew this is what it was going to be. I mean, it's great. It's so good.
Talk about that.
And you know the crazy thing about that sequence too?
What's that?
It completely eschews any combat whatsoever.
Yeah. It's...
You don't need a single bullet for the house.
Nope. That's what's so good, dude. I love it.
The House Beneviento section begins as we open the gates and make our way through an ominous forest filled with dolls hanging from ropes and imagery immediately alluding to the location's heavy themes of childbirth and parenthood. We see strollers along the road, hallucinations of our character's wife Mia, and in order to gain access to the house itself, we must give up a photo of our lost daughter. This setup makes it so these themes are fresh in the player's mind as we make our way towards the house, making us question how and why we're seeing these things as we prepare for what's to come. And speaking of the house, once we reach the end of the forest and finally arrive at House Beneviento itself,
it's very unassuming. Like, you see it and you're just like, oh, Castle Dimitrescu was so much bigger and it had so much more to it. What can this have in it?
Right.
We also find ourselves in the first part of the sequence, which really disturbed me, and it may not even be obvious right away what that is. You see, prior to this part of the game, every single setting in RE Village shared a similar characteristic, that being the large-scale, grandiose feeling of everywhere we went. By this point in the game, we'd fought our way
He didn't push the cabinet in front of the door.
Through a ransacked village of lichen, ventured through a massive gothic castle filled to the brim with monsters and vampires. And after all that, we heard tales of Donna's dollhouse, a location where no one ever returns. And yet, once we finally arrive at this supposedly horrific location, we're greeted by a humble, almost calming environment. The house itself is neat and mundane, with no clear signs of any threat anywhere to be seen. And on top of that, it finds itself situated on a beautiful view right in front of a waterfall on a cliffside. Up to this point, this was easily the most relaxing and comforting location in all of RE Village, and that set off so many red flags in my head the second.
It's like the creep factor alarm's like starting to it's starting to build up in the back of your head. It's
almost because you feel yourself letting your guard down, and you know that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I walked in. With the other, more overtly scary areas in the game, they made it clear right from the moment you entered who and what the present threats were. You knew about the Lichen and what they could do. You knew about Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters hunting you. The game made these threats very apparent from the moment you entered these locations. But in this peaceful, serene house, you have no idea what to expect. You know something is going to happen here. It's a Resident Evil game after all. But you don't know what it will be or when it will happen. As we explore the house deeper, we eventually make our way down into the basement where most of our time here will be spent. We step through a pair of doors which have faint music heard playing behind them, and are greeted to a room with many different dismembered doll parts hanging from the ceiling, as well as the vial we came here for conveniently placed right in the middle of it all. Of course, going into this, we know retrieving it isn't going to be that easy, but we take it anyway, thinking we can take on whatever the game throws our way. And then, it does this.
I've been waiting for so long. I'd make a much better daughter than Rose. Please, won't you stay with me forever?
What?
Also, to be honest, I don't think her voice actress gets enough credit for this.
No.
Because Neil's in it, so everybody wants to talk about Neil, but that voice is creepy.
Yes.
That doll voice, it's technically, I think it's actually Donna. But still, like that voice she's using for the doll is creepy as hell.
Yes.
My gun.
All your weapons are gone. Everything's gone.
Just like that, any suspicions or concerns we have while venturing through this house are valid.
Exactly. It's like, what?
Validated in the worst way possible, as all of our weapons are taken from us without any warning. This right here, this single event, was something that allowed for House Beneviento to pull off a kind of horror unseen from this game up to this point. It's one thing for a horror game to give the player no means of defense right from the get-go, but it's another thing entirely for it to provide you with all the tools necessary to survive, only to have them taken away forcefully. Resident Evil games were always about creating stressful situations where you faced off against enemies with a limited...
Am I remembering correctly, or am I thinking about Dino Crisis? In Code Veronica, is there a sequence where you have to go through a metal detector, and therefore you have to... Or is it Resident Evil 0?
I can't remember.
I think in one of the Resident Evil games at some point, there was a sequence where you had to, like, stash your weapons temporarily, and you had to run through, like, a group of enemies and such with nothing on you.
Yeah.
So that was pretty intense, but it didn't quite hit what this did. And it didn't quite have the same purpose of this either, because... They're just like, no weapons, go through enemies, have fun, you know, and you're like, ah, poop.
Damn it.
But, like, this is like, no weapons, and it's like, now what happens? And it's like, you're expecting an enemy at some point. You're expecting to have to run through groups of enemies because they've taken your stuff away.
Well, and
you have no idea that, like, technically you don't actually need them for this part.
No, you don't, but
you're creeped out as hell to know that you're helpless if something does happen, you know?
And what they do is they throw you into scenarios where actually having a weapon would be to your detriment, because running is really the only option against the thing that's coming for you.
Yeah, I don't think the weapons would have stopped it.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Supplies you had, fearing for when you would run out of those supplies and become entirely defenseless. This single event essentially forces that worst case scenario on the player, now making it so that any threat that may appear while we're here is infinitely more threatening than they ever would be if we had the means to fight them. And it's this looming dread over our heads which carries the horror of this sequence as we make our way through each room attempting to solve the escape room-esque puzzles it presents. Every little scare, every moment where we're forced to make our way into the unknown, knowing fully that there may be something we can't fight waiting for us, it all builds towards an overwhelming tension that lasts for the entirety of this sequence until it inevitably reaches its climax as the lights go out and we stand before a red, bloodied room. This moment is what the entirety of House Beneviento has been building to. This moment where we stand before a pitch black hallway, where a subtle, droning ambience begins to build and we're forced to stare down a darkness so intense we can barely see 2 feet in front of us. This is what will either make or break a horror sequence. The moment where the game tries its best to deliver on what all the suspense has been leading to in a way that doesn't ruin or cheapen the overall experience. And I'm sure you guessed from the title of this video and the way I've been talking about it up to this point that what you're about to see absolutely succeeds on the delivery of this climax. I could describe what happens next, but I feel like nothing I could say would properly do justice to the absolute terror
also,
that is
like
this
what you're
moment.
doing here with building suspense with your video.
Yes, exactly. No, that's why I like Posture. Posture is really good about you know, like with a little tease and just like reeling your attention in for the moment that they want you to like really have your attention like on it.
I know what's coming.
I do too.
I've seen it multiple times before,
Same.
so many times before, and yet he's building tension to the point where I had the comic relief break it. It's like,
So
good
I'll let
show.
it play out and allow you to see how Resident Evil Village created the perfect horror sequence.
Yep. Run. Run. Run.
Oh no.
Hell no. To the no, no, no. Hell no. Hell no. Hell to the no.
Hiding in the locker.
Yup.
I've never done that.
Oh, yeah.
I just keep going.
No. Yeah, you wait until you can circle around and get past it.
Do I even need to describe to you why this is the most frightening moment I have ever experienced playing a game? I feel like it's very self-explanatory, but I do have a lot to say about it, so I'll try my best to put it into words. This moment to me feels like the absolute culmination of every single element that was put into play from the moment we stepped foot in House Beneviento. All of the foreshadowing and symbolism alluding to the overall theme of parenthood and childbirth, the sudden loss of our weapons, the many moments where we're forced to go somewhere knowing full well that something may be waiting for us in the darkness. It all comes together in this one perfect sequence where all that buildup and tension is paid off in the most gruesome and horrific fashion possible. This giant fetus is the scariest monster I have ever had the displeasure of looking at.
It's pretty scary.
It's pretty up there.
It's up there. This, like, given everything that I've played and everything I've seen, this is definitely, I would say the sequence and the payoff is what really makes it stand out. But yeah, I don't know. In terms of monsters, it's in the top 5.
It's like, I'm trying to think of things that I think are more terrifying than that, and I'm having trouble coming up with any.
Yeah.
So, I mean, intimidation factor-wise, the first time Nemesis shows up in the original Resident Evil 3.
Yes.
If that's what you've played the
Oh,
first time.
yeah.
Like, obviously, you're just like, oh, fuck me.
The dog's jumping through the window, although that's more like the scenario.
It's not just their design that makes them scary, though. They jump scary, you know.
Yeah.
Nemesis is like got some design elements to him, you know, like the musculature, the tentacles, you seeing him murder somebody right in front of you.
Yeah, the instant
the
kill.
growl, stars, you know, and the music coming up, and then him just trudging and stomping his boots towards you, and you're just like, oh my god. Like, yeah, it's like one of the closest things I can think of, you know, really well done. I would say Dead Space, Regenerator the first time. And the Regenerators from Resident Evil 4 are pretty fucking scary too.
The first time you encounter one of those was that, especially when you don't have the thermal scope, and you have to use basically half of your inventory just to kill one of those bastards. That to me is just
either that or just have to run.
Yeah. I wasted half my inventory killing one, and I'm like, I hope there are no more of those things. And then
there's several.
Yes, and then, but by then they just like use the thermal scope to see where the parasites are. I was like, oh,
makes
thank
it a lot
God.
easier to take care of them at that.
Oh,
point.
thank God, yeah.
But that first one was horrifying.
Yes, especially when you're in the ice box and like it just you just hear the.
And there's obviously you know, good old red pyramid head.
Yeah, pyramid head. That sequence where you're trapped in that room for the first time, that is easily like one of the scariest moments ever. And it's not until as enough time goes by, and then the water drains out of the stairwell, and then he leaves. It's like, oh, thank God. Anyway, yeah, sorry.
Its warped, vaguely humanoid appearance mixed with its sheer size and gaping maw.
As a matter of fact, what are some of the monsters in gaming history that you all remember and have the biggest impact on you, similar to what Postra is talking about here? Feel free to let us know in the comment section.
Not from a horror game, but the first time they show up in Half-Life 2, the fast zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Like the sounds they make and shit. Ravenholm is an iconic sequence for that reason. That is one of the scariest sequences in a non-horror game.
Don't go to Ravenholm.
Sure. Yeah, we don't go to Ravenholm.
Exactly.
Make it so viscerally wrong to look at.
Yeah.
It feels like it shouldn't exist, and yet here it is taking up the entirety of the hallway when we have no means of defense, forcing us to find somewhere, anywhere we can to escape it. And it's not just the overtly grotesque appearance of the baby which makes this particular part of the game so terrifying to play. There are many other smaller details at play here which build upon it to make it all the more dreadful. There are two main ones I'd like to key in on, those being the soundtrack and our character himself. The music which accompanies this moment perfectly complements everything it's trying to do. It's this loud, droning cacophony of noise created by several instruments which sound as though they're trying desperately to mimic the sound of human cries as the baby slowly crawls its way towards you.
You see,
it would not, in fact, be fun.
No, it would not. So, this sequence right here is what I imagined the Silent Hills game was going to be like throughout the entire thing. Because it's clear to see the inspiration that the Resident Evil franchise, especially with 7 and 8, that took from PT, that was the playable teaser for Silent Hills. And dear God,
I was still kind of wondering if, you know, PT was supposed to be first person, like, because they didn't really have an idea who the character was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But the first person ended up working out so well for horror, you know, which I could have told everybody already because I'd already at the time played games like Outlast and stuff, you know. I was like, dude, Outlast being first person is what made it so scary for me when I first played it. But yeah, like, I don't know if they were going to keep it first person or not, but if they did, yeah, it would have been dope. Like, a lot like this, probably.
And if you're wondering why I'm clutching this PS4 so tight, this is the one that has a copy of PT on it. I'm never selling this thing. I'm not. This is my baby. This is my PlayStation 4. There are many other like it, but this one is mine.
One day you'll have to replace the CMOS battery in it, though.
That's true. That is true. Which, if I have to, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But anyway.
Yeah, I never noticed that about the music, but it does sound like it has got like cries in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, like yeah. I wonder what they used for that.
It almost sounds choral, like
to an extent. Sounds like that, plus like bowed instruments, maybe.
So, you know, like the kind of like vocals that you hear in like certain like native musics from different places.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you kind of hear it in, like, I think, Norwegian, like, kind of Viking style stuff sometimes, and, trying to think where else. Definitely in Asian stuff, for sure. Like, there's a lot of Asian horror music that actually has kind of that vocal style. It almost sounds like an older Asian lady vocalizing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always singing in the minor key frame so that it sounds off. Because if you sing in the major, you know, ah, whereas you sing in the minor, the ah, it gives that sense of unease. That's the differences between major and minor. God, I love that so much.
I have never found myself more disturbed by a track in my entire life. It creates such an overwhelming sensation of fear that at times during my original playthrough, it had actually brought me to near tears when I heard it. The second detail I'd like to focus on, and the one I find the most fascinating, is how our character, Ethan, reacts every single time this monster appears. You see, Ethan's character, despite being one who constantly finds himself in horrifying situations, is one who very rarely expresses fear towards what faces him. In almost every other situation we see him in throughout the entirety of RE8, usually he has something to say about it, whether it be some kind of quip or expression of irritation.
Yeah, you can't go
he
in there
faces
yet.
down monsters that are far greater than him and actively defies those who attempt to talk down to him. It's part of what makes me love him so much as a character. But when we see him in the dollhouse,
so he does
when he
express
stares
fear
down
in
the
certain
monster at the
instances,
end
like,
of the...
definitely when his hand gets cut off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck? You know?
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, this is one instance where he's like, oh, fuck!
Like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Paul, this is how he reacts.
Yeah.
This is the only sequence in the entire game where Ethan has nothing to say. All we ever hear from him when this monster appears is the faint sound of him gasping for air and faintly screaming in fear. And to me, there is something so genuinely scary about that. The fact that this moment is the only one where we see our character, just like us, is really, truly terrified. No quips, no banter, nothing. Just silence. And of course, putting atmosphere and design aside, the actual gameplay of this sequence does a wonderful job at setting everything seen here in motion, as well as allowing for proper tension to be built leading up to the chase. The moments where we're left to explore the house without any present threat make it so that we're able to familiarize ourselves with our environment without even realizing it will be integral later. We can find multiple places throughout the house which act as hiding spots later.
If you didn't know the layout and knew that it looped from the beginning, you kind of be screwed.
Oh yeah.
Even knowing that's their purpose until they come into play. And the time we spend exploring allows us to subconsciously learn our own escape route by the time the actual monster appears to chase us. These moments allow for the wonderful building of suspense while also giving the player a proper, fair chance to escape once the sequence reaches its climax, making for something that is terrifying without becoming annoying. These hiding spots also get the opposite effect later on once we know the baby is now roaming the house somewhere looking for us, with each new hiding spot we find reminding us that it could appear at any given moment to give chase, even when it seems like we've lost it. Perhaps the greatest example of how the gameplay comes into play to add to this sequence's horror is seen at the very end of it as we place the fuse in the elevator to escape. At this moment, we convince ourselves that this horrible nightmare we've been thrown into is finally at an end, only to be forcefully thrown back into it at the last second as we realize we must painstakingly wait for the elevator to come back down while hearing the baby slowly approaching us from behind.
The first time
everybody had to be doing that exact same thing.
Dude, at first time I was shitting myself. I was like go 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 go
there and waiting for that elevator, knowing what is behind you, is a moment that will always get me no matter how many times I replay the game. I know for a fact that standing there in front of the elevator will always allow for it to open right before the baby catches you. Yet despite that, there is always a horrible thought at the back of my mind where I tell myself, it's gonna get you right before you open that door. I know this kind of scenario has been done before in other horror games, but I just feel like the way this game in particular does it is so much more effective because of everything that comes prior. There is no better feeling in the world than finally seeing that door open and running inside to safety. It's an amazing end to an absolutely perfect sequence.
Except it's not over.
No, it's not. But right here, imagine if you go up and the baby's on the next floor and it opens up and it just eats you.
That would be fucking bullshit.
I'd be like, just as to fuck with you.
As we make our way back to the surface, there's only one challenge left in House Beneviento that we must face before we're finally able to leave. And that is, of course, Donna herself. This final fight between Donna and Ethan, while not being nearly as scary as the sequence prior, is a great send-off to this location and the horrors it presented. It's a stressful race against the clock as we try our hardest to find Angie among the many dolls scattered through the house. All the while, a disturbing track plays over the entire thing, which is actually a French song about playing hide and seek. Once we finally catch Angie for the final time, we stab her in the head with a pair of scissors we brought from the basement, and it's revealed that the one we were really chasing through the house was Donna herself, who had been making Ethan hallucinate using her powers. This reveal works to me for 3 main reasons. The first and most obvious is the fact that it brings into question what in the house was real and what was a result of Ethan's imagination. Some things being a mere trick of the mind makes a lot of sense, but things like the baby which can actively kill us? It brings a lot into question and overall makes everything we've gone through more mysterious. The second thing, which I feel makes the overall fight more fascinating at the end, is the fact that it being a hallucination.
As if the baby catches you, it's essentially like she breaks Ethan's mind.
Yes.
So it's as good as being dead at that point.
Basically.
Because that's what she's trying to do. Like, she's trying to break like her adversary's mind with her powers, essentially.
Yes, 100%.
And, like, the baby catching you is basically that happening. You know, you losing the struggle against her.
100%. I see that.
Her hallucinations.
Yeah. It implies that what's really going on here is that Ethan is chasing Donna through her own home, with her desperately hiding as he attempts to find and murder her. And that segues into the third thing that sticks out to me, which admittedly may be me overanalyzing this whole game, but I still find it interesting. That being the fact that when the illusion fades, Ethan is no longer holding the pair of scissors we saw him holding prior. Now, this could just be a simple oversight on the part of the devs, but there's a part of me that is so freaked out by the possibility that Ethan quite literally killed Donna with his bare hands at the end of this fight, since he had no weapons to fight with. It's just a great send-off to an overall perfect...
Never noticed that.
Well, I noticed that he didn't have the scissors in his hand, but I figured that, you know, maybe he stabbed them into her head, and it was like under her hood or something. I don't know. But then when she dissolved, you know, you didn't see the scissors fall or never heard the scissors fall.
Yeah.
But of course, her clothing dissolves alongside of her skin and or like her body. So, is like, did the scissors dissolve with it? I don't know. We really don't know. But anyway.
Perfect area which puts everything we experienced into question as we finally leave House Beneviento and make our way through the rest of the game. This entire area to me is the absolute definition of what any horror game should strive to do in order to effectively scare the player. It sets itself up perfectly by juxtaposing what we've come to expect from the game, providing us with a deceptively safe environment that quickly turns sinister as our weapons are taken from us without warning. And as we try to escape this place with no tools to defend ourselves, we're forced to face a monster so viscerally frightening that it's overwhelming. House Beneviento is the most terrifying location and sequence I have ever experienced from the horror genre, and I feel as though it will stay that way for a very long time. With that said though, I'd love to know what you consider to be the scariest moment you've experienced from a piece of media. I find discussions like this so insanely fascinating, and I would love to see some other perspectives in the comments, whether it be anyone agreeing with me or having some fun stories of their own. Anyway though, that'll be all from me for now. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. It genuinely means the world to me to have you here to listen to me go on my little rants, and I would love to see you here again for whatever my next project ends up being. Goodbye for now.
Alright. Well, if I could be perfectly honest, Resident Evil Village, I mean, that sequence, the basement sequence, like you were talking about, Resident Evil 7, I would also say the ship sequence in Resident Evil 7 as well, like you were talking, Ravenholm sequence in Half-Life 2. Then, of course, for me, I would also say
the
go ahead.
The other worlds in Silent Hill 2.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, after leaving the hospital,
Yeah.
really creeps me out. Like when you actually get out and the streets are dark, I don't like that. It still gives me the Wiggins, like really bad. Like didn't go through that part.
I remember when we were playing through that part, you were like, that was when you were like on most edge.
Yeah, I was like, this part still makes me uncomfortable. I don't know why. It's just being in the streets and it being so dark. Like, I know I can outrun anything that's going to attack me, but I don't know why. It still just creeps me out.
Yeah.
And I really don't like the labyrinth either, just because I get lost so easily. I can't memorize that place to save my life, you know? So they did a really good job of making you feel lost in that part.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think of anything else for sure. There's been a lot of things that I would have said were some of the scariest moments, but they've since kind of been topped by other things.
Yeah.
It's like I would have, like, I think I would still give Outlast DLC one of the top.
Whistleblower?
Spots. Yeah.
Whistleblower DLC goes hard.
Yeah. To be honest, Amnesia I didn't find as scary as everybody else.
Yeah.
I like it a lot, but it didn't really get me like most people. So I don't know.
I would say it's not so much scary as it is intense, but the final mission in Mass Effect 2 where your choices matter, and if you make the wrong choice, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
And oh my god.
Dead Space 2's eye needle part.
Oh, that sequence still gives me like the willies. Yeah, just like it's like But also, there's a bunch of sequence. I'll say one in Dead Space or Dead Space 2, another sequence. It's more of a longer sequence. It's when you realize that the Ishimura is on the station, and it's been there the whole time. Yeah. And you're wondering, you're wondering where did this outbreak come from? It's not like they, oh god.
Poop.
And then when you see the Ishimura and you're going through like the old sections of it that have been carted off and everything, and like the cleanup crews have come in to try and clean it up and everything, and you're just like,
why is everyone so fucking stupid?
Yeah. Damn, my fucking soundboard's not on. Damn it,
I did it for you.
Thank you.
But and then I was gonna say Fatal Frame.
Ooh, yeah.
Does have multiple sequences that just make the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. The attic in the third one is probably the number one. Although the intro sequence to the second one's pretty creepy too.
Yeah, a lot of people put Crimson Butterflies like the scariest one, but
I think the third one's scarier, to be honest. I think the second one's the best written and has the best like level design and such. But the third one definitely has some scarier moments, and the attic is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
It's like, it's taking a familiar place that you've always been creeped out by, and then, like, playing out the scenario that's always in the back of your head. They're like, I hope something like that doesn't happen, you know?
And
then it happens, and you're just like, oh my god, no.
It's like, why? Why would you do this?
It's like you're in the crawl space, you know, you can barely move, you're not going to be able to run if something comes at you. And then, like, as you find what you get, and you're like, all right, I can get out of here, and then all of a sudden hands come around the back of your shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh shit,
God.
dude.
Oh, damn.
Dude, it got me so good, just with, like, creep factor, you know?
Yeah. Well, just know that, this game, this sequence, I think will be talked about for years to come. It's a great standard to follow for psychological horror in video games, period, end of story. And other games, I think, should learn from it and follow its methods. But all right, everybody, before we end the video, just want to say thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you, Posture, for this awesome video, and also thank you to Anarchy for recommending this. If you're wondering, like, are we crazy for reacting to Posture? Just remember,
I'm not crazy, I just don't give a fuck.
There you go. So,
hopefully nobody thinks that.
Well, till next time, everyone. We'll see you then. Peace.